Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we can talk about something that, like many things, started off really good and ended up becoming something very detrimental to women especially. And that's really interesting considering we're going to be talking about feminism. And I think it is important to establish the definition of what feminism is. So I actually got it up on the Google search here, and it says feminism is the belief in social, economic, and political equality of the sexes. Although largely originating in the West, feminism is manifested worldwide and is represented by various institutions committed to activity on behalf of women's rights and interests. In other words, saying that if you believe that women and men are equal and they should have the same opportunity, the same equal things, right? They could be able to get the same job, have the same positions in a job, so on and so on, same pay, then you are a feminist. And by that definition, I am a feminist. So let's jump on the bike, guys. Let's go for a ride and let's talk about it. Now, I know a lot of you guys out there, woo, baby girl. Now, I know a lot of you guys out there are actual feminists, right? Of course. Of course you're a feminist. Of course you believe in equality for everybody. And the funny thing about that is, for me, is that, you know, I'm an older person, been around some time, and I have never met anyone in my life that had a problem with women having the same opportunities as a man. But why is it destroying women now? Why is feminism destroying them now? Well, there's a lot of reasons as to why it is. I would say social media definitely has a position to play in it, because you're getting a lot more mouths and messages that are spilling out just nonsense to people. You know, you always hear about the wage gap, you always hear about how women aren't treated as equals with men, but the thing is, guys, in all my life, right, especially in the last, 10 years or so, I have never known a woman that couldn't get a job that a man could get. I've known plenty of women that make more money than men, especially in this day and age. You know, it really depends on the job. So a lot of times when people look at statistics for how women are underpaid, right, they always say, oh, they just look at the year statistics and say, oh, they didn't get paid very much compared to a man. But the problem is with a lot of these polls and statistics that are done on women is that they don't take into account certain things like child labor. They don't take that into account at all. You know, a man would work all year round, whereas a woman, she'd work, 10 months around, 10 months of the year, or maybe even less, if she's on leave due to having a baby. And that's completely understandable. That is an absolute necessity in life, right? We have to have kids, we have to procreate, we have to keep having our children, right? So we can keep the world going, right? And so, it's just that, and that's just one example of where things get misconstrued, things are just wrong, right? You can't say that one is underpaid versus the other when you're not using actual equal statistics regarding both sides. What kind of jobs do the men take? What kind of jobs do the women take, right? Men will take much more physically demanding jobs that usually will pay a lot more. Women will be more in the medical field. They're going to be more in fields like teachers, where they're around other people. They're social creatures, whereas men, we're more materialistic and we just prefer having things, right? So that's just the way it is. And so whenever I hear the pay gap argument, I just think it's kind of nonsense, right? It really is. To me, it's nonsense. I got a very successful sister in sales. In fact, she lives a better life than me. She's made more money than me. And I'm somebody that's college educated, somebody that's traveled the world, blah, blah, blah. And yet she still does better than me. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman these days, right? But I want to get to the point of why I feel like feminism these days is destroying what all the ladies and all the real feminists worked for all those years ago during the civil rights movement, all right, for the ladies, right? And that is the fact that, nowadays we have some trans issues. Now, I know whenever you say that word, it's a bit controversial, and I don't really give a crap what people do with their bodies. When you're 18 years old, you can do whatever you want. But the problem is, a lot of so-called feminists now, they say that in order to be a feminist, you have to support men that are transitioning into so-called women and play in sports. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that to me completely craps all over what women have worked for years and years and years, along with the feminist men. Like the real feminists, the people that believe in real, true equality, right? And it's just destroying them, because you got all kinds of situations out there in your public schools and colleges where you'll have a trans woman completely destroying the actual women, right? And that's not right. If one of those women were your daughter, you would be godly upset to know that a man that transitioned into a woman is now playing sports against your daughter, right? Or against other girls. They fought forever to be able to have their own women's soccer, women's basketball, women's this, women's that. They did that for a reason, right? People did that for a reason because men are just naturally stronger. They have more lung capacity and so on, right? Their bone density is much thicker than a woman's. We have all the advantages when it comes to physical. Then yes, there's some outliers. There's some very strong women out there, but very few in between. On the average, men are just way stronger than women, right? I mean, you guys saw with the soccer team, the USA soccer team, where they got destroyed by a bunch of teenage boys. Like the female soccer team got destroyed by a bunch of teenage boys, right? And there's all kinds of examples of women trying to take on men and getting their asses completely handed to them. Is that fair? Is that right? And the crazy thing about that is, you know, feminists would always complain about the patriarchy, right? The men controlling everything, right? And the thing is, you do realize, you feminists out there, you so-called feminists, that you are actually supporting the patriarchy, right? If you really believe in the patriarchy and you really believe this is a real thing, then why in the hell would you support trans women, men that are transitioning into women, playing sports against other women? If it's a sport that isn't physically active, I could kind of understand it. But a sport that is physically active, where it requires physical strength, speed, endurance, stamina, the men will just have a huge advantage, even if they are transitioning over to being a woman. They will always have an advantage because they're always going to have that extra lung capacity, they're always going to have that extra bone density, and they're always going to have more muscle mass. Pretty much every time, guys. So that's, I mean, it's a big reason why it's really crazy how, like, all the real feminists fought so hard for women to have equal rights, for women to be able to vote, for women to be able to join the military and all these things, and they got all that stuff, and now you have actual men taking that away. Then you have a lot of feminists out there, men and women, that are so-called feminists, that completely support this. Now, let me ask you guys something. Are you really being a feminist if you support something like that? Do you really believe in equality if you support something like that? I don't think so. I don't think you are at all. I think you're a fake feminist, is what I think you really are. You don't really care about women. You just want to look virtuous and seem like you care about everybody, and you really don't. And that's the problem, right? It's just, it completely craps all over them. It gives them such a bad name. You got women that have worked their living butts off to be able to be number one in their sport, and then some dude comes along, for example, like Leah Thomas. Whenever he came along, and I'm going to say he, I don't care, whenever he came along, he destroyed 6'4" man in swimming, destroying the shit out of all these ladies, like the best in the world ladies, completely destroying them by about 2 seconds. And yes, there was one match where Leah Thomas was tied with Riley Gaines, which kind of shows how bad Leah Thomas really is if, you know, they're getting that close to being beat by a woman. But still, that's what I'm talking about. And then you have all the other issues where, you know, they're in the locker room, you know, Leah Thomas or these people are trans women are in the locker room with women, they're showing their nads, they're showing their goodies. You think those women really want to see that? You think they're going to feel comfortable around all that? Would you want your daughter in that situation? Right? And that's what I mean by feminism is destroying women. It's destroying everything they ever worked for, everything that they ever craved for. And now feminism has just become, and I hate to say this word because I can't stand it, but they have become toxic. Like feminism has become super, super toxic now to where it's just completely negative. And it just, like, if you're a feminist now, like a so-called feminist in today's age, then what you really are is just a man-hater, right? That's what you are. You're a man-hater. I mean, that's what it is. You know, men and women need each other. We need each other. It's not about one being better than the other. We need each other, and a true feminist knows that, right? You know, and the other problem with the whole feminism thing is, you know, they talk about, equal outcome versus equal opportunity. I hate to break it to the feminists out there, but equal outcome means that everybody gets the same outcome no matter what. So I could be this piece of shit worker at McDonald's that doesn't do a goddamn thing. I'm sorry, excuse my language. That doesn't do anything. Or you can have someone else that works their butt off at McDonald's, and yet I make more money. Does that make any sense at all? Or we both make the same money, right? We both make the same money. That's equality of outcome, right? The shitty worker myself makes as much money as the guy that works his ass off. Does that make any sense? No. And that's just comparing two men. Equal outcome is bullshit. You want equal opportunity. And do we have equal opportunity in this day and age? Absolutely. In Western culture, in America, of course we do. Jesus Christ, we fight for it all the time. You know, the men out there want the women to have equality and equal rights. And you know what? In this day and age, they do. They can become, we have a vice president that's a woman. We have women, like women that are in government. They could have easily become a president. You know, I mean, Hillary could have easily become a president if she wasn't such a pile of shit. All right? Nikki Haley could have been a president if she wasn't such a pile of shit. Right? And I could go into more depth about why I think they're piles of shit. But, you know, I mean, you get what I mean, guys. Like, it's not because people won't vote for a woman. That's ridiculous. Of course they would. You put a good one in there, you put one in there that's reliable, just like what you would want for any man, then you obviously are going to have the right girl for the right job. You know, I'm completely cool with voting for a woman for president, and I think most people are, as long as they're a good person, as long as they're smart, intelligent, and then they got the wit about them to get it done and do what needs, to do what's necessary in order for the country to survive, to do well, right? I mean, you have to do that. And it's just, I don't know, guys. You know, I know I'm ranting quite a bit because honestly, this subject is very complex. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of reasons why feminism is really failing, right? And really failing women just tremendously. It's honestly really sad. You know, it's really sad. But, you know, you'll find that a lot of people out there, independent voters, people that really have no side, people like me, that we see the feminism and we see what it's doing, and it really is destroying everything that the ladies and the real feminists out there in the past actually worked for. These guys are trying to you know, regress everything and change all of it. But I just wanted to share my thoughts, guys, with you about feminism and feminism of today versus feminism of the past. Today it's really, really screwed up, whereas in the past it was a good thing and it needed to be there, and it still needs to be there. We always need to believe that everybody should have equal rights and equal opportunity. But past that, I'd say that'd be all it, guys. So guys, let me know what you think about feminism. Let me know what you think about today's feminism. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one. See everybody. Take care.